Hi guys, and welcome back to the Blues Focus podcast. I've got Lee Clark with me here today, and we're going to do a little Q&A with questions from the fans on our social accounts. Pleasure to have you with us as always, Lee.
No problem. Delighted to be here.
Right, so this first question is from Thomas McDonnell, 11. Favourite game as Blues boss?
Probably talked about it already. Probably Crystal Palace away, because they were a team that eventually won promotion to the Premier League. It was an away fixture live on television on a Friday night, and everything that we wanted the players to produce, they did. The performance was fantastic. 4-1 away from home. Some terrific goals and terrific performances. So yeah, really, that's the one that stands out. One, because of the end result, but two, because of the quality of the opposition.
Fantastic. Got to love that game. I mean, I spoke to you about it the other day on the other podcast, how much I love that game personally. So, sounds great. Next question. I'm not entirely sure how to say this one. It's on Instagram, HXYX Ward, I think. But favourite moment in manager/coaching career?
It's like a generalisation of it. It's really seeing a lot of the players that I've worked with as youngsters grow and develop into top players in their own right, but great people as well, great personalities. So there's many players from Huddersfield, even Blackpool, Birmingham, Kilmarnock, Bury. Some of the youngsters that I produced there have gone on, to some great things. Bright Samuel from Blackpool, for example, will give his debut, just signed for Fenerbahce on Thursday evening for a 4.5-year contract from Queen's Park Rangers. So he just came out of street football as a youngster, watched him in a couple of training sessions, and then give him his opportunity to develop in the first team at Blackpool under really difficult circumstances. Callum Styles, a young player at Bury, who's doing really well for Barnsley at this moment in time. Will Ferry, a youngster who was on the bench for me at Bury as a schoolboy at 15. Just signed a new professional contract at Southampton, was on the substitutes bench for them in the FA Cup. And then obviously the youngsters that I see that I've had at Birmingham in various different levels. Obviously Jesse Lingard, being successful at Man United, Damari Gray, Premier League winner. Young Reece Brown having a good career for himself, in Mitch Hancock's, Callum Riley. Then you've got your Jordan Rhodes and Anthony Pilkington, Lee Peltier, all those guys, Alex Smithies from Huddersfield. So that gives us a lot of pleasure when I see those go on and do terrifically well. One of my old ex-players from Kilmarnock, Jordan Jones, just moved from Glasgow Rangers to Scotland yesterday. So yeah, I took him on a free transfer as a youngster from Middlesbrough to Scotland, and he done brilliantly to get the move to Ibrox. And so just spoke to him this morning to congratulate him. So I had a good conversation with him. It's all those type of things give us a real amount of pride.
Yeah, definitely. I can imagine. I didn't realise the list was that long. I knew it was a long list, but wow, that is really impressive. And the fact that you keep in touch with all of those players as well, and you keep an eye on their career is brilliant. And even at Blues alone, there was plenty of players that have gone on to do bigger and better things. And
some have gone right to the top, like Damari, become a Premier League winner. But some have, playing at a lower level, but they're still having a great career in the game. Not everyone can go all the way to the top, but, at least we've put good habits and they were good characters as well. And they're making a real good living in the game at various different levels. And, that's just as important to me as the likes of Damari and Jack Butland and Nathan Redmond and the Jordan Rhodes of this world, who go from huge money to the big clubs. It's the lads. You just want to see them if they can get to that level. As long as they want to do it, which most of them do, they love football, is still get a living out of the game and still be doing well at the level they're playing at. And so, yeah, I keep an eye out on all my players that I've managed in the past, young or old. And, some of them, the older ones, have gone into coaching, into the media. And so, yeah, you just keep an eye out for them all.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Oh, that sounds so good. Next question is from Des O'Connor on Twitter. Do you feel that being from the East End of Newcastle gave you a particular affinity with the majority of the working class fan base at Birmingham City?
Without a doubt, my upbringing has always put us in line with supporters. I'm one of them at the end of the day. I'm a massive Newcastle United fan. I'm out of work now, so I'm back to being a supporter. I was lucky enough to be a player and then a coach and then a manager, but I've always had an affinity with them. That's why, when there was tough times as Blues manager, it was never an issue. I fully understood. The results weren't good enough at times, and the performance level wasn't what I expected. The supporters, I never criticised their expectation level. They were absolutely right in what they wanted. I hope that I've cleared lots of things up by telling them certain things that I couldn't see at the time. So they get to understand some of the restrictions I was working under. There's hours upon hours of more stuff I could say to give them a clearer picture. Yeah. But at the current time, you can't say that. You've got to focus and try and get the team to get results. Yeah. And not bring other factors into play at the time. So, yeah, I mean, I'm totally in line with the man on the street and the supporters. I'm with them 100%. I go, as I said before this pandemic, I was going back to St James's Park and around the country watching them play. So yeah, I totally get it. No problem at all.
That's top draw, and I think many Blues fans and obviously Newcastle fans and just fans in general at other clubs will respect you for it, because that kind of ties in with the passion and emotion that you have when you're involved in the game. So no, that's brilliant. Next question is from Twitter, and it's from Ben Hancock. Obviously, we've covered your best Blues game, the Crystal Palace one, but he also said, what did you feel was the best player you've come up against?
Oh, dear me. Is the Blues manager?
Yeah, as a Blues manager, and maybe one in general.
Oh, wow. I mean, there's many players that stand out. I mean, there's the one that sticks in my mind, and I knew I had no chance of signing him, but I just thought that I might be able to pull at his heartstrings. And I managed against him when he was at Walsall, and then when he was at Watford was Troy Deeney, and I knew he was a blue nose, and I bumped into him in a hotel actually down in Blackpool, and I think it was when I was Blues manager. I think it was a midweek game. We might have got a 1-1 draw, and he was down there. His family were coming to the game, and I think he might have been coming to the game, or he drove across to see them. And I knew he obviously had the club crest tattooed on his leg, and I'd always been an admirer of him. And I knew that he was a big blue nose as well, and his family were. So I tried, but didn't have a lot of faith in me trying. I tried to pull on the heartstrings, knowing that my financial offer was miles away what he was after and what he was on. So that he was a player that always stood out, and I wish I just could have got him to the Blues just because of what he was a terrific player. But two, I knew he's a big fan, and it would have been brilliant. I've got no doubt he would have made things a lot easier for me as the manager in terms of getting results.
I suppose that was probably during his proper kind of prime era of his career as well, so it would have been even more difficult for you.
I think he was just coming to the fore then. Yeah, I think it was just starting to come to prominence. But I knew
Yeah.
I'd obviously seen a lot of him when I was Huddersfield manager in League One, when he was plying his trade at Walsall. So, you know,
Yeah.
he'd always impressed us then as well. So yeah, there was obviously him with the links to the club, you know.
Definitely, yeah, and obviously many Blues fans want Deeney to sign, but he said himself he couldn't handle the pressure because he wouldn't want to disappoint, and I respect that wholeheartedly.
I think
I'd be the same.
I think there still might be an outside chance he want to wear the jersey, even if it's just for 6 months. I think there's still
Yeah,
a thought in my mind that he might end up there before his career finishes.
we can pray. Yeah. Anyway, next question from on Instagram, and this is from Kazawaza9305. Lee, how did a managerial career open up for you from the start? What path did you take?
Well, as I explained yesterday, I took my coaching badges in during my playing days, and I
Yeah,
knew what I wanted to do before I retired. So I was a pro license holder, which is the main accreditation as a coach you can have in world football in terms of it's the main criteria to become a manager. I had that by my 30th birthday, so I knew what I wanted to do. And then obviously that progression was made smoothly because while I had my last season as a player at Newcastle, before I retired, I was also the assistant manager of the reserves, which is now under 23 football, and learning me trade under a good senior coach of Tommy Craig, who was a Scottish guy, ex-Newcastle player, but a terrific coach. So I learned the ropes under him. When I retired, Tommy had moved on, so I took sole control of the reserves. And then, as I said, moved to Norwich as assistant manager, and then within a year got offered the Huddersfield Town job. So I'd done all the working up the ladder in terms of senior football, and got to the position of decision maker, which is, I've heard people talk about it, and they're 100% right. Being the manager to an assistant manager is completely different when you're the decision maker and the results fall on your head. The decisions that you make, the tactics that you put out, the personnel you put out, the substitutions, they're huge. So yeah, that was a massive difference for us.
yeah, that's brilliant. Obviously, we touched on the podcast yesterday, and I'm sure Blues fans will look forward to watching that. I've not long ago finished editing that. It was a great watch. So yeah, hopefully, guys look forward to that. Now, I think I know what the answer to this question might be, but this question is from Connor Shiner, I think. What was your biggest regret at Birmingham?
Biggest regret was not being allowed to manage on a level playing field.
Yeah, that's what I thought it might be.
And it was taking over a massive club with great support, great infrastructure, and the goalposts being moved quite quickly from when I went into talks with the club and what the aspirations were and how I was going to be backed in the transfer market, what my plans were, what type of players we were looking at. So yeah, and then obviously within a couple of weeks, that being completely flipped on its head, and then we became selling our biggest assets, our talented young players for less than the true value, and just trying to survive and keep the club in the championship, but also keep it afloat financially, which obviously the people, as I've mentioned, behind the scenes at St Andrews, the British-based administration team, Julia Shelton and Joel Sop and that team there, done fantastically well. And basically I had to try and, which was tough, keep the club in the championship. But I could never lower the club and the fans' expectations. I still wanted to try and take the club into the Premier League, but the reality was it was nigh on impossible because of how we were working and the structures that were in place. But yeah, I mean, listen, and I made mistakes. Of course, I did. I made mistakes, which looking back, if I had done things differently, we could have, been higher up the league. But I always think back, and we talked about it at length about the first set of loans I had that season
Yeah,
that were doing terrifically well. I always think back, if I had had that full-back combination of Carr and Murphy for a full season, what I could have achieved. And just obviously was dealt a couple of unlucky hands. But, you know, I'm not saying that I didn't make mistakes either. I did, definitely. And so, yeah, that's the one big regret.
And what a job you did in the end under the circumstances, and I'm sure every Blues fan will all agree with that, because, you know, you look at the budget we had, the fact that we stayed up is a miracle, really, in the end, compared to what we were competing with. So, no, it's a big credit to you.
You know, I'd like to be on record to say as well, I mean, and I think Gary showed it with majority of my players when he took over. I think it had got to the stage where I was so desperate to do well, and I wanted to do so well for the fans, and the players could sense that. There was a little bit of nervousness probably crept in, and because the players could see how desperate we were as a group, how desperate I was as a manager to get on a positive run of results, especially at home. And because they showed a brilliant attitude towards me, that I can look back and see I never once thought that they were never trying, never giving us their all. You know, so, and I think that probably showed in towards the end that it was getting a little bit desperate. And when a new fresh voice like Gary came in, probably relaxed the players a bit. You've seen the results then start to come again with that same group of players. And so, you know, that still gives us a bit of pride, that recruitment in that summer, even though we had limited resources, showed me that they would pick probably the right group of players for that budget that we had, and they delivered with Gary at the helm.
Yeah, and a lot of Gary's players that we got that 10th place finish with in the end were your signings.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, there were glimpses shown under you, and then the results just weren't coming. It was really, really unlucky. Like I can remember constantly, it was like we played so well just to come out the other end not deserving what we should have got. And I think in the end we just managed to get a few more results in the end under Gary, and things started to look a bit better. But obviously then the new owners came in and so on. But yeah,
never ending story, unfortunately, for Birmingham City.
Yeah. Next question. This one's quite a funny one. This is from Con BCFC. Did you ever buy more Gucci shoes after booting the advertisement board?
I had to. First time on, and the one ruined. I was absolutely gutted when I got home and I seen the state, but it was worth it in the end because the team delivered a real fighting performance against a real good Burnley team, and got a result I felt they deserved, even though the officials tried their hardest not to allow us to get back into the game. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
I had to invest in a new pair of shoes after that. And as I said, I'm sure the club were trying to find us for ruining the advertising hoarding as well.
Yeah, obviously, I'm sure it was a relief in the end, just getting off that steam that the fourth official and the ref had caused.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but at least you got some new ones in the end. I think this next question is probably the one that I'm most excited to hear. This is from Woodward3560. What's next for your managerial career?
I don't really know. I've obviously been out of the full-time game. I had a little spell in non-league football with the local team Blythe, which I found difficult. Just training twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursday evenings. In fact, probably because of the fixture backlog, hardly ever trained. Difficult to get on a surface. I found it difficult trying to go from trying to bring in professional ideas. You know, you had lads who were doing 12-hour shifts and then trying to come and train, or if we had a midweek game, you know, it was classed as National League North, but we still had trips down to Brackley and Gloucester and Hereford and Kettering. And so it was, I remember looking down the bus on one trip before the game as the team was travelling, and down the aisle in the footwells, the players were just lying on the floor trying to get some rest after a day's work to prepare for a game. So didn't really know the level, so it was difficult for us. So I had a go at that. never didn't really enjoy it. Walked away from that one, and that was just before the pandemic as well. So really good timing personally. But what I'm doing at the moment is a friend of mine up here who's bought a step 7 non-league club, but has real massive ambitions for it to try and get it.
Yeah.
He's done well in his business life, and he's wanted to try and do a, like, obviously Salford City's the example for him, and he's looking to try and take the club from there. But so his first project, he's bought the land, he's got the ground up and running the team. I got the first team compete in what the classed as the Northern Alliance, which is 3 levels below National League North. And he's had planning permission to build a 500-seater stand with hospitality facilities, new dressing rooms. So the first team stadium will be set up. But he's also got academies, so the teams from under 5s all the way to under 23s.
Yeah.
Girls teams involved in that also, and just got a grant for a full-size 4G floodlit pitch to training facilities for the youngsters. So I've put me name in there, and as director of football, basically want to try and bring in, as a face of the North East football circuit, sponsorship for the first team. I'm not involved in the management of that. I just try and help the management team of the first team with some funds by bringing sponsorship, and then overseeing the academy for them and trying to bring and implement some training modules and areas of improvement for that, with it being a new startup club. So, but while I'm doing this, it's basically just looking for the next opportunity and the right opportunity for me, whether that's home or abroad,
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'll definitely keep an eye on that. And that must be a really exciting new role, especially, director of football, being a manager all your career, and a footballer, director of football must be a whole new kind of avenue for you. But I can imagine it's exciting because a lot of managers do tend to take that route.
Well, it's exciting because it's basically starting from scratch. And, the friend of mine who has said done well in his business life, he's doing fantastically well. I mean, what a time to take over a football club. I mean, unfortunately, it's been shut down at that level of football, so there's been no income because the team gets quite well supported for the level it's at, between about 800 and 1,200 people through the gates on a match day, because it's in the west end of the city. So a lot of people who, especially when Premier League wasn't allowed fans, but step 7 and 8 were allowed some fans in. So it was creating a good atmosphere, and we're getting some fans who couldn't go to watch Newcastle United coming along. And so, it's the pandemic stopped many things, and this has just stopped the club in its tracks in terms of trying to progress, trying to get the first team to get promoted as quickly as can, go through the leagues, and then investing in the infrastructure. But he hasn't been put off by that. He hasn't been perturbed by that, and he's still pushing on, and at his own cost in terms of finances. So it is exciting. It's going to be hard work, but I love the ambition of what they're trying to do. He hasn't been frightened to tell anyone what he's trying to do. Sometimes in football you get ridiculed because you say you're at a certain level. If you're in lower league level and you say you want to get to the football league, you do get a little bit ridiculed. But there's examples of clubs that have done it. So why should you not aim? Exactly. And you should be able to try and do that. And you see, look at Barrow now, they're in the Football League. You see clubs that have been great examples of it happening. And so, why not, if someone's prepared and he's got that ambition and that drive, which he certainly has, that we can try and give it a go. And if we don't do that, we can, at least we can say we've had a right go trying.
Definitely, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it because it does sound like a really, really enjoyable opportunity. And the fact that his ambition comes from the love of the game as well, by the sounds of things. And I mean, if you can tackle problems financially in this pandemic, then it really preps you for the future in football, really. I don't think there's anything you can't tackle, but hopefully we move past this pandemic eventually and you can start having some fans back in.
Absolutely.
Last 2 questions. Next one is from Ash Dutton. Favorite current Blues player?
Oh, wow. Favorite current Blues player? Wow. Well, there's certainly none left from my time, is there?
No, I think Davis just left, actually. He was the last one.
Yeah, I mean, I would have said young Jude because Jude was around at the academy when I was the manager.
Yeah.
Because my son was actually in the academy there and was in with Job. Job was in the same age group as my boy, so they were quite close. They've kept close through the England side because my son represents England. So, obviously Lucas Jukovic is quite, because I had Lucas at Huddersfield on loan.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, so a really young striker then from Everton. So yeah, obviously keep an eye on what he's doing. I know there's a massive game today, isn't there? Landlords v the tenants.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed there's 3 points. That would be huge. And the 3 points and the turnaround and the goal difference with a positive result for the Blues would take them above Coventry. So I'm hoping that's the case. My day to day is full of the ex-teams hoping to get results to get them out of precarious positions. So after this, I'm going to watch Newcastle v Everton, 12:30.
Yeah.
Then at 3 o'clock, I'm watching my old club Fulham v West Brom. And then while that's going on, my fingers are crossed that Blues get a big result against Coventry. So it's and up in Scotland, Kilmarnock need a result as well. So
definitely, yeah. I'll keep an eye on that Newcastle game for you. But yeah, no, we just had actually done a podcast with a current Killie player, Colin Doyle, who was also there in your time. Yeah, that was a great podcast. Love chatting to Big Col, and he briefly touched on you, said some nice words. So yeah, no, that was a good podcast as well. The last question is from Jack BCFC on Twitter. Where does Bolton away rank in the highlights of your career?
Right at the very top, right up with the best games. Winning promotion 3 times with Newcastle, Fulham, and Sunderland. Playing in Europe for Newcastle and Fulham. My debut for Newcastle, living the dream, as I said, playing in Europa League, Champions League for Newcastle, being one of the top teams in the Premier League. Right up there because, as I said, earlier about what it meant. The club, the people, the if we had got relegated, the horrible situation of people, fantastic people behind the scenes who loved the clubs, proper supporters of the club, probably losing their jobs with the financial position it would have been in. So yeah, absolutely right up there, and just seeing the pictures back still, watch it regular, very emotional. The support that day was just summed up. The support I'd had all the time I was there, but the way the support has kept the faith, turned out in numbers like that, we're right up against it. And they I think they were the driving force when me, my staff and my players seen that support we had behind that goal that day. If they were prepared to keep fighting till the last whistle, we had to keep doing that for them. And thankfully it worked out the way it did. And as I said, the footage, it must have been one of the best ever Super Saturdays ever for Jeff Stelling and his gang.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I don't think, to see those live pictures and it played out the way it was, you couldn't have wrote it like that. I mean, if someone had said beforehand, this is the way it's going to happen, you would have said, no chance, you're living in cloud cuckoo land. But that's why it's a brilliant game. We came out on the right end of it. So yeah, it's right up there. The club, listen, the club was special because I feel really proud that I was allowed to manage such a big, prestigious club. And just wish, as I said, the situation, the circumstances were different to give me a bit of a helping hand. And I could have done other things differently as well, and we could have been successful.
Yeah, that's honestly that's brilliant, mate. I've loved hearing you talk about the Bolton game on the podcast and today. I mean, I think watching old Blues highlights has got me through a lot of lockdown, to be honest. And there's been plenty of times where I've watched the highlights of that game and shed a few tears, just because it's just one of them. It's like I remember back on the day, the relief.
Because
Oh,
it was all natural. It was all natural emotion as well. It wasn't
yeah,
false. It wasn't staged. It was, living that till the last kick of the ball. I mean, if you remember, we all started running down the lane, but the full-time whistle hadn't even been blown. We had to get back in the technical area, and when it blew, it was just off again, and it was going into the crowd, giving that young guy the tracksuit top, and just sitting in the dressing room afterwards. And I've never, after one game, when I got back on the team bus and picked my telephone up, had so many text messages, emails, voicemails. It was just into the thousands. It took days to read them all and listen to them all, and weeks to reply. And you're hoping that because there was that many, that you haven't forgotten anyone to reply to.
yeah.
So it was just absolute crazy. And Ziggy even bought the beers going home as well. So that was a bonus.
Quality. Yeah, no, that's brilliant. It must have been very overwhelming afterwards, but overwhelmed with delight, I'm sure. Um,
Definitely.
but no, thanks for doing this with us again, Lee, and I'm sure the fans will love it. It's been great having you on, and obviously, if you haven't already, go and check out the podcast that will be uploaded on Sunday. Hopefully, link will be on the Twitter page and the Instagram page. But no, if you've enjoyed it, drop a like, give it a retweet, and thanks for joining us.
Keep right on. All the best.
Cheers, Lee.